So who can start a OPC? First of all, what is the concept of OPC? In Companies Act 2013, in Companies Act 1956, India never recognized a model of one person running a company. It was never there. Now what people used to do, if at all someone is running a sole proprietorship, he does not have a corporate form of business in India. Meaning one person can never run a safe business in India. For people who are having two or more, they were running partnership, which is unsafe. For them, we introduced something called as Companies Act. We introduced something called as LLP. A lot of things was introduced for people who are more than one, basically two or more. But people whoever were doing sole proprietorship, for them there was no other convenient form under a corporate model, which is safe. Basically, which is limited liability. So in Companies Act 2013, they introduced the concept called as OPC. OPC means one person company. So even if you are just a one person, one shareholder, you are free to start a business. Obvious question, what if he dies? So only in the case of OPC, nominating a person is mandatory. We need to take a consent form from a nominee saying that upon the death, that this person will become the next shareholder and such a person will become the next shareholder, and that particular chain continues. Once the nominee becomes the member, that person has to nominate the next person. Clear? Now, who can start a OPC? This benefit is given to whom? This corporate form of doing business, it is given to only a natural person. What do you mean by natural person? That means people, Reliance if it wants, it cannot start a OPC if it wants. It has money. Can Reliance fund and open something called as Reliance OPC Private Limited? The answer is no. An artificial entity cannot start a OPC. The person investing money should be a shareholder. I mean, that should be an individual. It cannot be an artificial person. Is this clear? Pakka? Okay. Second one, people, it's an opportunity given only to an Indian citizen. If you give away our Indian citizenship, gone people, you cannot start a OPC. So foreign citizen people, you cannot start a OPC in India. They can give you any type of MCQ question. Mr. John coming from Australia, who is a citizen of Australia, wants to start in India because he has been in India for the last 10 years. Can John start OPC in India? Whatever they say, if you are a foreign citizen, you stay here for 50 years also, you will not get a right. I mean, point number 2. Point number 3. Here is where people, the lawmakers did not do a good job. Why? I'll tell you, before 2021, OPC was clear. Who can start? 3 conditions. Natural person, citizen, resident, mandatory. Sorry, if I have to be a resident, what is the condition? You should have stayed for minimum 100 earlier 180 days. Earlier it was 180. Now what did Nirmala Sitharaman do in 2021 budget speech? Nirmala Sitharaman said, no, we have to incentivize our people. We have to make doing business in India more liberal. We want people to come and invest. So what did she do? She said, if at all I keep it as 180 days, people will not be able to satisfy it. She reduced the condition from 180 to 120 days. So today for any person to be called as a resident, you just have to stay in India for 120 days in the previous financial year. Now she should have stopped her speech there. What did she say? She introduced an amendment for the word resident and she made 180 as 120. And she introduced one more word also, people, with the amendment. That amendment was called people or otherwise. Or otherwise. Now, what do you mean by or otherwise, people, in your general terminology? What do you think if it is or otherwise? Huh? When I say or otherwise, what do you understand? Non-resident is also possible. Then what is the joy of having this 120 days then? I am not telling my interpretation. I have just written completely what is there in the law. To be called as a resident, you should have stayed for 120 days. Now my question is, if you have not stayed for 120 days, what will happen? You are called as a non-resident. Agreed? Yes. Now my question, if you are a non-resident, can you start a OPC? If you are an Indian citizen, natural person, you have stayed for 110 days. Can you start a OPC? Can you start a OPC? Hello? Unfortunately, this question they should have asked you guys, but very, very unfortunate. Jan 2025 attempt, they asked this question for CA Foundation. Super sir, Amma, we are. Yes, I'm saying this interpretation itself. What do you say? Now, understanding the overview, taking that, let us take our Nirmala Sitharaman budget speech and then today let us try to conclude what she meant. Getting the point? Now, based upon all these people, based upon what this analysis, what I can arrive at as a conclusion is that, now if you search for budget 2021, so this is what she'll read that day. So here you can see company or related matters. Nirmala Sitharaman only, no? Ministry of Corporate Affairs coming under her only. That's why she is only making the changes. We'll be seeing how a change will be made. See, small company. How quickly the law can change. In 2021, they made the limits as 2 crore and 20 crore. But today, what is there in your syllabus is 4 and 40. Again, it changes. And probably next year, they're again in discussion. Again, it will change. We'll see what it is. Okay. 81st point. Read. This is what she completely read. Nothing added, nothing deleted. This was the problem. Now read. As a further measure which directly benefits startups and innovators, I propose to incentivize the incorporation of OPC by allowing OPCs to grow without any restrictions on paid up capital and turnover. Okay. Allowing their conversion into any other type of company at any time. Reducing the residency limit for an Indian citizen to set up an OPC from 182 days to 120 days. And also allow non-resident Indians to incorporate OPCs in India. She said, I'm bringing down the residency period from 182 to 120. Okay, very good, happy. And look at the last line. And also allow non-residents to incorporate OPCs in India. Now, if you are resident, you can start. If you are a non-resident, you can start. Now the question is, how will the examiner frame a question here? That was the biggest problem. Answer is yes, you can form. That's all. Because it's a loophole in the law. You don't ask me any other question. It's a loophole. That's all. I will not come and sit and justify. They should have done. Why should I do? It is resident or non-resident. Anyone can start. Now see, let us what our Papa CA Foundation people. We have to start, Papa. Why is the entire third requirement? That is, you are saying the residency period. Huh? Okay, read the question. Able to see? Should I zoom more? Able to see? Okay, Kamal, a chartered accountant, started his e-commerce business by incorporating a OPC on 1st October 2023. By the way, before you read this, one more thing. A person who can start a OPC, you need to satisfy those three conditions. Now, who can be a nominee? Even nominee also should satisfy all three conditions. Because basic logic, if this person dies, he will be the next member. So obviously, even that person should also satisfy all the conditions. Agreed? Yes? Okay. With that, have this in mind. He, being a sole member of OPC, named his brother Sudhakar with his consent as his nominee in the MOA of the OPC. So Sudhakar is the nominee. Now Kamal intends to replace Sudhakar and nominate any one of the following shortlisted friends as a nominee with effect from 1st Jan 2024. First one, Robert, an Indian citizen and resident in India, shifted his residence to the USA on 31st May 2022 and has not returned to India till 1st Jan 2024. So he has gone on 31st May 2022. Till today he has not come back. Option number 1 is him. Second option, Dinakar, an Indian citizen and non-resident in India, came for employment in India on 1st April 2023 and have been continuously staying in India since then. So they're asking you who can be appointed as a nominee. Is it Robert or Dinakar? Papa CA Foundation. Sir, it's namge kottangide sir question. We feel it is like our question only. Anyone, sir, your wish. Okay. In them, anyone. Who is that? Dinakar? Dinkar? Both are eligible? Both are eligible? ಇವಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ? Nirmala Sitharaman ji, our institute does not know. What do we do now? Her intention of, see, we should be questioned. We are being questioned. So the answer is both. The answer is no. If it is both, then why would I have discussed? Surprisingly, the answer is people. Robert is impossible. Yes sir, yes sir. We knew sir. We knew sir. We knew it. Day. If you guys say build up kotti, we knew it. I'll not tell you why. Now you tell me. Robert Pakka na, he should not be. He should not be. Pakka. Why da? Hey, then resident or otherwise where did it come da? Hey, okay da. Okay. Ivaga oditini. Robert, you said no. Now tell me, Dinakar can become a nominee or not? Why did you say no to Robert previous financial year? More eligible, you interview him. Previous year is not there, correct? Okay, you tell me Dinakar. When did Dinakar come to India? 2023. When are you be proposed to appoint as a nominee? 1st January. So technically which year it is? It is still 23-24 only, no? Previous year andre eno? 22-23. In 2023 is not in India at all. Eppadi? Sir, why is it CA Foundation? They should have given it to us. We also have done this only. Yep, see, literally, Papa, rest in peace. Yes, now people, remember, taking our budget speech, one conclusion that we can arrive is, a person who has given up his residency also, shifting his residence. What do you mean by that? I'm no longer inclined to stay in India. Such people we will not consider as non-resident for our definition. Again, I'm telling nowhere defined nothing. I'm taking budget speech. I'm taking your CA Jan 2025 that attempt answer, and I'm telling you this is the conclusion. What is that? We saw the budget speech. She said Indian citizen resident. That means 182 has been reduced to 120, and allowing the non-resident Indians to register a OPC. That is the word she had used, and they have clearly emphasized Dinakar as what? Non-resident in India. You're able to see that? And the other person, they have specifically stressed on a point that he has shifted his residence. Correct? So taking this in mind, they have said Robert cannot start a OPC in India because he has permanently shifted his residence, and hence he has not stayed for 120 days. They are telling people Robert cannot start OPC in India because he has shifted his residence. Coming to the second person, Dinakar, they have clearly used the word called as he's a still non-resident, inclined to come back, came back also. He has come back also, right? So, for such people, we use the word non-resident. In your question also, it will be given like this only. Wherever the word non-resident is there, for him, you can assume whether he has stayed for 120 days or less than that, he can still be eligible. So, in our answer, how can we write? Robert has not satisfied the condition of 120 days and is also not a resident now. Hence, Robert cannot be a valid nominee. Now, coming to Dinakar, a non-resident who has stayed for less than 120 days is still eligible to be a part of nominee of your OPC. So can Dinakar do? The answer is yes. Is this clear? Now people, you only think, ishtalla interpretation possible. What did the institute now do? Institute says, see da, even I don't know. When Nirmala Sitharaman herself said that, how will I know? So first time we saw an answer called as alternate answer given by the guidelines only. You know what do you mean by that? This is also correct. This is also correct. C. It's not, I am not writing everything. It's your guideline answer. So for Dinakar, see what they have written. Dinakar, see above the alternate answer. Dinakar can be appointed as a nominee in the OPC by Kamal as he is an Indian citizen and non-resident in India. Because he is a non-resident, less than 120 days, acceptable. Agreed? Interpretation number 1. Interpretation number 2. Alternate answer. Dinakar cannot be appointed as a nominee in OPC by Kamal as he has not stayed in preceding financial year for even a single day. Sir, what are they expecting, sir? People, if you guys are feeling confused, you have a right to feel confused because that's how the law is made. What do I say? People, I am at least telling you this non-resident word is there means you're free to assume. That is also nowhere written. Even that is also an assumption only. That too, driving from the budget speech, you get the word called non-resident. Getting the point? So, sir, in exam, what do we have to do? We have a, precedent. Follow that. What is a precedent? If at all a person has not stayed in India, they will use the word has shifted the residence. Then you say a person is not satisfying the word resident and hence he has stayed for less than 120 days. He is ineligible to be appointed as a nominee or ineligible to become a member of OPC. If they have used the word non-resident, that means there is some interest coming towards India. Then you use the word even if he is resident or otherwise, can still be considered for being appointed as a nominee. Or I don't want risk at all, sir. I'll take interpretation number 1. 120 days not satisfied. Go with interpretation number 1. Because 120 days are not satisfied. Because according to institute, both are correct. Sir, idu yen gotta big pity. I'm saying both interpretations. Agreed? But I hope something sensible you guys derived it. Sir, Andre, yen sensible, you can't leave the ball in our court. You should only say what is sensible. I'm telling you both. If you want, assume that a person given as non-resident, if they have used the word non-resident, you can write he can still be a nominee because the definition says resident or otherwise. Clear? Pakka? So 120 days condition does not come at all. Or sir, the second interpretation. Sir, they have clearly used the word resident. Institute itself has said, if you have not stayed for 120 days, you cannot be a nominee. Then you cannot be a nominee. Clear? Yes? Pakka? Hello? Understanding alva? Right on. So a person should have stayed in India for not less than 120 days in the previous financial year. Remember, all three conditions same to even become a nominee as well. Even to become a nominee. Even to become a nominee. Sir, there are many questions to ask. Why are they asking this in foundation? Hey, feel happy, da? What would you have done if it is asked for you in your attempt now? But I was telling before this question, my interpretation was the law says what people 120 days or otherwise. So according to me, my personal opinion, outside the class it is. My personal opinion is even Robert should also be a resident, I mean, allowed to be a OPC. He should be eligible. Because Indian citizen, natural person, resident or otherwise. Again, Dinakar with, I don't know what difference they did. Yeah? Because non-resident word is important. According to us, what is non-resident? Previous year is non-residence. Because Companies Act does not define who is a non-resident. According to us, the only condition is the previous year 120 days. Dinakar also did not satisfy. That person also did not satisfy. Robert also. Yeah. So according to me, if you take institute's word, if you said no to Robert, you are free to write no to Dinakar also. The reason is that because you have seen something here, you are saying 120 days condition here, then you also take 120 days condition here also. Getting it? Yes.